On today's episode, we talk with Sue Harvey Brown from Merrill and all the Mendozas. This is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome to the world's toughest podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's the world's toughest mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome back to the world's toughest podcast. My name is Will Hicks, and this is day 5 of 5 of Kickoff Week. This is our 5th episode in 7 days. We're going back to our regular weekly schedule starting next week. We won't be daily again until the end of October or the beginning of November when we bring back Elite Week. I say Elite Week. It's more like Elite Weeks. We talk with a different elite WTM athlete every day leading up to World's Toughest Mudder. We did it last year, and it was great. We got some good feedback on it. Kevin Given emailed me and said it was one of the best things we did last year. Before we start, you can send me an email at willhicks@gmail.com or find me on Twitter at @TheWillHicks. I am on Instagram at WillHicks. You can subscribe to our World's Toughest newsletter by texting the word tough to the number 22828. That's tough to 22828. Or by sending an email to worldstoughestpodcast@gmail.com. Directions are in the show notes. You can be a part of the show by leaving a review on iTunes through the Purple Podcast app on your iPhone. If you enjoy the show and think, I'd like to say thank you, the best way you can do that is with a review on iTunes. I appreciate those reviews. I mentioned we're at the end of Kickoff Week. What we're kicking off is the start of Season 2 of the podcast. We are also looking forward to the new Tough Mudder season starting on March 3rd at Tough Mudder LA. I will be there at Toughest Mudder, so come up and say hello. The highlight of my year last year was the Toughest Mudders. I'd be minding my own business, running down a hill at Toughest LA, and David Thanos passes me and says he loves the podcast. Or I'm doing a log carry in Atlanta, and Bobby Long yells at me, 5 stars. Or during the first lap at Toughest Mudder Chicago, when we're still in a big mob, at the very beginning, a girl sees my name on the back of my bib and yells, I love your show. I yelled back, I love your show too. But that was a lie. I've never listened to your show, Chicago girl. I'm sure it's great, though. Anyway, I am looking forward to Toughest Mudder LA and the other toughest in the US, Europe, and Toughest Mudder Australia. Last year was a huge year for Tough Mudder, building out the framework of this competitive series with Tougher, Toughest, and World's Toughest. And I am looking forward to seeing, after a year of building this structure, to seeing how they fill it out in 2018. We'll have a Toughest Mudder season preview episode before Toughest Mudder LA. They've changed a few things from last year, mainly for the elites, and we will bring you up to speed on what to expect. And of course, we will talk with the athletes from the podium after each toughest. Those were good episodes last year. I enjoyed those. Speaking of podiums, congratulations to Rhea Coble.
5 stars.
Rhea is the reigning women's World's Toughest Mudder champion. She ran 90 miles in 2017 for her win. She dominated the first Spartan race of the year this weekend in SoCal. She won the Super on Saturday and the Sprint on Sunday. Congratulations, Rhea. If you want to hear more about that race, you should check out the Overcome and Run podcast. Jay and Heather Bodie were both at the race this weekend. I'm sure they will talk about it in an upcoming episode of their podcast. Something that'll be interesting to watch this year is the women. Rhea didn't do any of the 8-hour Toughest Mudder races last year. She said she plans on racing some of them this year. I hope she does a few along with Lindsay Webster and Allison Ty. Lindsay and Allison dominated the women's podium at Toughest Mudders last year. It'll be great to see the three of them mix it up over multiple races over the year. I hope that happens. Someone asked me once, who's your favorite? Who do you root for? But that's a tough question. Obstacle course racing is a small community, and the group of men and women that have a shot at winning any given race is really small. So everyone knows everyone, and for the most part, everyone's friends with everyone. Lindsay is one of the nicest people I've ever talked with. Allison won so many races last year. She was practically my co-host toward the end of the year. And the day after she won World's Toughest Mudder, Rhea Coble paid me one of the highest compliments I've ever received.
Why did you decide to run World's Toughest Mudder?
We started listening to your podcast a while ago just because it was super funny. And then the more I learned about the race, the more I was like, wow, this is like something that would be a real challenge.
So who do I root for? I root for a good race. I root that no one gets hurt and that everyone stays friends. I root for the world's toughest athletes to run Spartan races and win. Did you follow the results at the Spartan 24-hour deal in Iceland in December? For the men, Joshua Fiore won first. Josh won third place at World's Toughest as part of a team in 2016 with Mark Jones. Robert Killian, who got second place at World's Toughest this year and is one of the only two men to ever run 100 miles at World's Toughest Mudder, he got fifth in Iceland. And Mark Jones got ninth. Mark got third place with Joshua Fiore in 2016. And he was on Team USA 8 in 2017. They finished second with 120 miles. But after USA 7 was disqualified in first, Mark Jones and USA 8 are the winners of record. That's just a bad deal for everyone. All 8 of those guys, Team USA 7, Team USA 8, they all got burned in that. For the women in Iceland, Morgan Mackay won the whole thing, and Allison Ty placed third. Morgan won third place at World's Toughest Mudder 2016, and she had a strong race going in 2017 before she got injured. She hit her head coming off Funky Monkey. I believe she was in second place when that happened. Allison Ty won second place at World's Toughest 2017 to Rhea Coble. She won the Toughest Mudder Series Championship last year, narrowly beating Lindsay Webster. So with Morgan's win, Morgan's a big member of the World's Toughest community. With her winning Spartan's 24-hour race, she is the reigning champion of that race. She's also the reigning champion of the Battle Frog 24-hour race, which they held once and will never hold again. So if she wins World's Toughest Mudder, if Morgan wins World's Toughest Mudder in 2018, she will hold all 3 of those titles at the same time. All 3 championship belts. One year, 2014, I'm going to say 2014, Tough Mudder actually awarded championship belts, like giant wrestling belts. They didn't award them at World's Toughest, though. They awarded them, they gave them out at the first wave of Tough Mudder SoCal in 2015. Amelia was there. She got her belt for first place. They mentioned Ryan Atkins' name, but he was not there. They showed his belt, though. And they gave out a third belt for raising the most money for their charity partner. It was a guy who won it, but I don't remember his name. I'm sure Sharkbait or Jim Campbell could probably refresh my memory on who that guy was. Anyway, well done in Iceland, folks, taking Spartans' money and their podium spots. And I root for Amelia Boone and Sarah Knight to get back to 100% so we can have some Americans on the podium again. Amelia Boone has won World's Toughest 3 times, and she finished second another time, 4th time. She had a major leg injury that has healed, and she was on her way back. Don't call it a comeback! Last year, when she had a fluke hand injury at a Spartan race, she wasn't able to compete at World's Toughest 2017. We talked about that during Elite Week last year. Sarah Knight finished second to Amelia in 2015, and she had 2 podiums in the first 3 Toughest Mudders last year before she suffered a foot injury. If she hadn't gotten hurt, it would have been Sarah versus Allison versus Lindsay all year long at the Toughest Mudder races. So yeah, I am rooting for our American women to get healthy and get back on the podium at World's Toughest. If not on the podium, at least in the top 7. Did you see the top 10 women at World's Toughest Mudder this year? Have we talked about this? Let's talk about this. We have time. Here are the top 10 women and the countries of origin, where they come from. Rhea Kobel, first place. She's from Slovenia, although she lives in the U.S. and has been here a long time. Second, Alison Tai, Canada. She owns a gym in Vancouver. Van City OCR. You should check it out if you're around there. Third place was Michelle Ford. She's from Canada, also from British Columbia, like Alison Tai. Fourth place, Deanna Blegg, Australia. She is the 2013 women's champ, cancer survivor, inventor of Blegg mitts. Fifth place, still no U.S. women yet. Fifth place, Ulrike Evensen from Denmark. Ulrike, I know I'm mispronouncing your name. I apologize. Shoot me an email and let me know how to say it correctly. Sixth place, no, not yet. Sixth place, Lindsay Webster, Canada. If you combine Spartan and Tough Mudder results for last year, Lindsay may have had the best overall year in OCR of anybody, man or woman. Seventh place, Beth Albin from the UK. Beth placed fourth at Toughest Mudder UK last year. Eighth place at World's Toughest Mudder 2017, Zoe Chazen, USA. Finally, a U.S. woman. Zoe placed second at 2 of the Toughest Mudders last year. And she is the highest placing woman at World's Toughest 2017. Ninth place was Deanna Braz, Canada again. I've talked with Deanna a couple times off air this year. We're going to have her on the show later this year. She did real well at the Tougher Mudder races last year. And 10th place, Maria Hernandez, USA. I don't know Maria, but she lives in Southern California, so I'm going to count her as USA. Now, I know it's called World's Toughest Mudder, so I shouldn't be surprised, but 8 of the top 10 women and all of the top 7 are from outside the U.S. And that's actually amazing. That's great. It shows legitimacy. It is a sign of future worldwide growth. And yes, I wish Amelia Boone and Sarah Knight were on that list somewhere, but it's good for the sport that it's not just a U.S. thing or even a U.S./Canada thing. There are great athletes from all over the world that are doing this at home and then competing here in the single greatest event in OCR. On the men's side, it's similar, but it's not to the same level. 4 of the top 10 finishers at World's Toughest this year were international athletes, including, of course, Ryan Atkins from Canada in first. Ryan has won World's Toughest Mudder each of the past 5 years, 3 times as an individual and twice as part of a team. I say they're international athletes. Really, we're all international to someone in a different country. Australia's listening to this. Other than Deanna Blegg, they're all international, mate. Mate. So World's Toughest Mudder has been toughest for a while, but this year really brought the worlds to World's Toughest. And I think cold Atlanta is going to give us the mudder part of it. Can't wait for Atlanta. Before we talk with our guests, let's read some iTunes reviews. The first one is from Australia. Coming strong, aren't you guys? Well done, Australia. From Australia, Trodster writes, awesome, 5 stars. Will, love your works. Keep it coming. Thank you, Trodster from Australia. Trodster feels like some cool Aussie slang that I don't know the meaning of. Speaking of, do you remember this?
Went to jump over a sign on the way and slipped over and busted my plugger.
Adam Quitgo from Canada found me on Twitter at @TheWillHicks and set me straight. A plugger is Aussie vigilante slang for sandal. They're those cheap plastic ones. let me go old man for a second. When I was a kid, we called them thongs. Sometime along the way, thongs got appropriated by the underwear industry, and we had to start calling them sandals. So now you know. Thanks for the tip, Adam Quickgo. Also, Trotster, thanks for the review. I need one more from Australia for iTunes to consider it enough to display. One more, Australia. Pick me up here. There's your regular Australia update. Next review comes from the UK. Captain Keckler writes, "Getting in the mood. 5 stars. Just discovered the podcast. I was hooked after the Vault review episode. This podcast gets me in the mood for our Tough Mudder in Grantham, UK. Will, can you give a shout out to my teammates, the Tough Nuts? Keep up the good work, Brad." Brad, thanks for the review. I appreciate the kind words. I'm afraid I can't shout out your teammates for you. I'm not going to say, "Hey, Tough Nuts," or "Glad you're listening, Tough Nuts," or "My favorite team in the UK is the Tough Nuts." Sorry, I can't do that for you, Brad. Next review comes from the U.S. Wyatt from North Carolina writes, "Excellent podcast, even better movement. 5 stars. I've been listening to World's Toughest Podcast for the last couple of months during my commute to and from work. I'm guessing I'm not a typical listener and that I was hardly in shape for this past Tough Mudder half at Tough Mudder Carolinas. I have to say that race was one of the best experiences of my life, and I'm now signed up for the Tough Mudder Full in Virginia in June 2018. Who knows after that? This podcast has inspired me to go from, why the heck would anyone run 8 hours through the night, let alone 24 hours, to, it would be pretty cool to do that someday. That's my new goal. Tough Mudder has been hugely influential in getting me back in my running shoes and working out. Thanks for providing me with entertainment during my otherwise boring commute, and thanks for making fitness cool. P.S. Tough Mudder isn't only helping me to stay healthy, but it's also helping my buddy who recently underwent kidney transplant surgery last March. He and I ran the half together, and he's joining me in June at the full. Thank you guys for motivating us both." Thank you, Wyatt. Wyatt, I hope you heard Molly Kenneth in our last episode, Back to the Phones. There are people of all shapes and sizes, all heights and weights at every Tough Mudder, and even at World's Toughest Mudder. I don't know if our podcast is, quote, making fitness cool, though. I mean, I think big arms and sexy abs were pretty cool before we started the podcast. If this was the last episode ever, tight glutes and broad shoulders would probably do just fine. Good luck to your buddy with the kidney surgery. My brother-in-law went through that a few years ago. Good luck. Last review is from the U.S. also. Crayola Smoker writes, "The best and only World's Toughest Podcast I've ever listened to. 5 stars. The coverage is good, fun even, but the way Matt says 5 stars is worth the price of admission alone." Hang on, Crayola Smoker. My name is Will Hicks. Matt is the host of the Obstacle Racing Media Podcast. Do you like the way I say it? 5 stars. Or the way Matt says it?
5 stars.
The way Matt says 5 stars is worth the price of admission alone. Crayola Smoker, this is a podcast. It's free. Maybe you listen to an ad once in a while, but that's how podcasts work. Who's charging you admission to listen to our podcast? All right. Anyway, back to Crayola Smoker. Plus, some episodes, the Which Toughest Was the Toughest episode in particular, feature 5 stars in the WTM community. If you count Will Hicks, which I do. Crayola Smoker, thank you for the kind words. You kind of let on there at the end that you know my name, so I'm not sure what shenanigans you're pulling. I think one thing we can all agree on is you need to lay off smoking crayons. That was a good episode, though. If you're a new listener, you should check that one out. Which toughest was the toughest? There were 4 people that ran all 6 toughest mudders last year. Jim Campbell, Melissa Dugan, Mark James, and Sarah Knight. We got all 4 of them on the phone at the same time. to talk about the different venues, and then they rank them from toughest to least toughest. That's one of our more popular episodes. If you'd like to be a part of the show, like Crayola Smoker, Wyatt from North Carolina, Captain Keckler, and Trodster, you can leave a review on iTunes also. Open the Purple Podcast app on your phone and search for Tough Mudder. Click our logo. It's the first one that pops up. And scroll down to click on Write a Review. I sincerely appreciate it. Let me tell you about our guests. Sue Harvey Brown works at Merrill as the liaison to Tough Mudder. But she's become much more than that. She is an active member of the community. She is an athlete who's run Tougher, Toughest, and World's Toughest. And she is a genuinely kind person. We've talked off air several times this year, but this was the first time I was able to convince her to talk to me with a microphone in her hand. We talked at WTM 2017 after brunch. The Mendoza family is great. You all know Christopher Mendoza. He ran 100 miles and finished in third in 2016. He was on Team USA 8 that ran 120 miles at World's Toughest Mudder 2017. But you haven't met his parents. I talked about meeting them last year. It was a couple of weeks before World's Toughest Mudder at Tough Mudder Las Vegas. After brunch this year at World's Toughest, I talked with Chris, and then I talked with Mr. and Mrs. Mendoza. It's time to talk with our guests. Let's go to the phones. Sue Harvey Brown.
Hello, Will Hicks.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Sue, you are one of the first people to really come alongside the podcast and be like, hey, like what you're doing. Good job. And I appreciate that. It's very kind.
Oh, you're very welcome. I've enjoyed listening to your podcast. Sometimes you're the last voice I hear at night.
Oh, it's very sweet. So you work for Merrill.
I do.
But you also run World's Toughest Mudder.
Well, I ran about 12 hours. This time I had a work conflict, so I couldn't make it to the course.
That actually makes the story better. So in the morning, you were in Miami?
I was in Miami, and I left. We had an event that we put on at 6:30 a.m., and I was in meetings until noon, and then I jumped on a flight at 2. And it was kind of surreal because I watched the Facebook live stream, and then literally, 10 hours later, I'm on the course doing it. So it was pretty cool.
What time did you show up at the course?
Well, my flight was delayed in Minneapolis. I think I was almost going to have a breakdown. And I started running at about 11:30, I think, p.m.
And you ran the rest of the 24
Yes.
hours after that?
Mm-hmm.
So you were probably up for 24 hours.
I was, a little bit more than that, I think.
What was it like starting World's Toughest Mudder at midnight, basically?
It was like a toughest event, actually. I was creating my own toughest event again.
You ran a couple of toughest this year.
2.
What did you think of the toughest Mudder?
Loved it. It was, I think it was a great kind of gateway to World's Toughest Mudder for people, but it was a chance for people to kind of bridge that gap. And I think you still had that level of competition, but the teamwork was still there. I mean, because there's some obstacles you just can't complete without the teamwork.
And it's not like you just show up as a Merrill rep and do a lap. You compete, and you actually do well.
I do okay.
You do. I don't have your stats in front of me.
She crushes it.
Who's that leaning into the microphone?
Christopher Mendoza.
Christopher Mendoza.
He says he hates us both. He loves us both. That's a lie. Christopher Mendoza. Sue, what did you think of World's Toughest Mudder this year?
Loved it. It was a magical weekend. I think it was, I know a lot of people said the course was brutal, but I think they did a really good balance of obstacles for those who do really well at obstacles. It favored them, but for those who run well, I think they were able to make up some time. The hills were great. I'm a trail runner, so I love the hills. Give me hills any day.
I was going to ask, are you a runner or more of an obstacle girl?
Oh my gosh, a runner. I'm so bad at the obstacles. I got funky monkey the first lap, and then after that it was no go.
What did you think of the new obstacles like Kong Infinity?
I attempted it, and I didn't do very well. I think it's definitely fun. I think Tough Mudder is always creative in their obstacles, and I like the balance of the fear and the physical side of things.
So you only had 12 hours to get miles in. How many miles did you get this year?
I did 6 laps.
So 30 miles.
Yes.
That's good. How do you feel about that?
I feel great. It was really fun. I mean, it would have been nice to have a lap or two without all the obstacles, or at least maybe not 2 or 3 of them.
You didn't get the sprint lap that a lot of the runners got, that everyone else got.
No.
So are you going to be back next year to run World's Toughest?
I hope so. So our sales conference is a 10-day span of all the brands, and it always falls within that weekend. So fingers crossed that it doesn't.
You might have to just finish work and come run the last 12 hours again.
There we go. I got to get a 24-hour headband, though.
So, Sue, Merrill has a couple new shoes coming out next year. I know in February there's a shoe you were showing me. Tell me about that shoe.
So the All Out Crush 2 is coming out in February. And I know a lot of people who run in the Crush have always asked, do you have anything with more cushioning? And that's why we recommend the Agility Peak Flex. But we designed this shoe with more cushioning than the current. In the U.S., it has a BOA lacing system, which is a quick cinch lacing system that kind of allows you to dial in the fit, but it still has the same grip and drainage, actually better drainage than the previous version.
I had never seen the BOA lacing system until Christopher Mendoza, who's wearing a pair of them right now, he showed it to me. It's like a circle that you can twist left or right to tighten or loosen your shoe, and it looks like you can do it with gloves on or with fat fingers or in the middle of the night. What does it sound like?
It sounds like my knee going downstairs.
Christopher Mendoza making another cameo appearance. So the new All Out Crushes come out in February.
Yes.
What are some other new shoes we can look for?
We're updating the Agility Peak Flex, so it will be the 2 version. It has a little less cushioning than the current one, so for those who feel it's a little heavier, it's going to be lighter. Still have the same protection and grip underfoot, and though it's a dedicated trail runner, definitely OCR friendly.
I'm a big fan of the Agility Peak Flex.
Yes, you are.
I ran 2015 in the All Out Crush, which was good. They're fine. They're great shoes, but they're designed more for the 10-mile Tougher Mudder style race.
Yes, most definitely.
And so after you and I started talking earlier this year, I bought a pair of them on Amazon, the Agility Peak Flex, and I was like, where have you been all my life? And I even wear the Agility Peak Flex for the shorter races, the 10-mile races, because I like the padding, and I don't need... To me, the All Out Crushes are a little lighter, but it's not going to make that much difference for my performance, that few ounce difference in the shoes. So I like the extra padding. Well, cool. I'll have to check out the new Agility Peak. When did the new Agility Peak Flexes come out?
February.
Awesome. Well, Maryland has a very close relationship with Tough Mudder, and I think a lot of that is due to you, particularly as a person. I know the community is a big fan of yours. I'm a big fan of yours, and so we're excited to see. I know Merrill's going to have a shoe deal with Tough Mudder going forward, definitely into 2018. I don't know beyond that, but what does Tough Mudder mean to Merrill?
I think you touched on it, community. We're a brand that has always been a very inclusive brand, and I think for us, that's what Tough Mudder is all about. I mean, you asked me what I liked about Toughest. I think the coolest thing about World's Toughest and Toughest is that you're running these loops, and you're running side by side with these elite athletes, and people are doing it for their first time, and they may just be walking the course, but everyone's supporting each other, and so you talk about that inclusion. It doesn't matter if you're someone doing it for the first time or someone doing it at such an elite level. And we just want to be part of the ability to enable these amazing outdoor experiences for people, and that's Tough Mudder is part of that strategy.
Sue, is there anything else you want to talk about with Merrill?
I jumped off the cliff.
Tell me about the cliff.
The cliff.
Tell me about the cliff.
I am really scared of heights. It took me 4 Tough Mudders to jump to the bar at King of Swingers. Each time I just kind of jumped down, and it was amazing. It got harder, though, as the night went on, because when it got lighter, it was like, oh, shoot. But
when you approach the cliff, do you walk to the edge and look down? Or what's your strategy for psyching yourself up for it?
I didn't hesitate. I did look down, which I know that's like a no-no, but it was kind of cool to see the green lights at the bottom. And I just went 1, 2, 3, and I stepped right off. Second time, I forgot to point my toes, and that was pretty jarring. My feet were flat. But it was pretty cool. Like, that was my big, oh, yeah, I did it.
And this is the last year in Vegas, so it's good you got it.
You had to. Yep. Talked a few people into doing it, too, which made me pretty happy that they did it.
It is, a lot of people talk about the mental part at the top, but once you hit the bottom, it is jarring. It's like a mild car crash, maybe.
Yeah, it's jarring, but the most exhilarating feeling ever.
You're alive. You know you're alive.
Yes.
That's awesome. Sue Harvey Brown, any last thoughts on World's Toughest 2017?
Thank you guys for an amazing year, a magical weekend, and we look forward to doing it all again with you guys in 2018.
Sue Harvey Brown, thanks much.
Thank you, Will Hicks.
Will, you had asked me if there's anything else I wanted to say, and I was still riding the wave of being out there on the course and jumping off that cliff. But I did want to say one more thing. On behalf of John and the Merrill crew, I just want to thank everyone for all their support these 2 years. It's been fun to see the number of Merrill shoes out there on the course increase from 2017 over 2018. And I think it's really important that participants support the brands who support their sport. And you have so many different options out there, and we thank you for choosing Merrill as one of them.
Christopher Mendoza, how are you?
I am good, Will. How are you?
I'm good. What were you saying about your name?
I just think it's funny how you call me by my full name every time now. You know, most people call me Chris or Doza. No. You say Christopher Mendoza every time.
I say Christopher Mendoza. Keith Allen sings it.
Yeah, that's true. Or in like half the people out on course.
What do most people... Oh, are people saying it to you now?
They sing it to me on course all the time. Austin, because he was running with me like the whole time, was like, why are people like talking to you in this same tone? Like, what's the deal? And it was pretty funny. So, yeah.
Did you explain it to him? Did he get it?
Yeah, I explained it to him, and I actually just sent him the video, so now he can actually understand, because he's never seen it.
As far as I know, you're the only OCR athlete with his own theme song.
Probably, unfortunately. For better or for worse.
It's exciting.
And people, just so you know, there are people that now know that I wanted a peanut butter sponsorship, because people asked me about that on course too.
Really?
Which was funny.
Well, you're welcome.
A lot of people listen to your podcast and are just like loving it.
I hope Jiffy or Skip give you a call. That'd be exciting.
That would be awesome.
So you guys were Team America?
Wait, before we get to this.
Oh, please do.
Before we get to this. Is it true that your wife ran more miles than you at World's Toughest Mudder 2017?
That is not true.
Are you sure?
I'm positive, because my wife is in San Diego right now.
Then who ran on your team?
That would have been Nate Swanson's wife, Rochelle, that you probably met.
Interesting. Because I heard, someone told me that your wife ran it, and I was like, what?
No, it wasn't my wife.
Someone mistakenly told me that.
So here's the story.
Yeah.
We signed up for the national team, much like you are a member of a national team, relay team.
Yep.
Me and 3 friends from school and work from decades.
One guy lives in Colorado.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the guy I met.
Okay. You met Scott Forrester. Oh, no, you met Joel George from Colorado. Yeah. And Nate Swanson lives in Wisconsin.
I met those two.
Okay. And his wife also, Rochelle, who you met, lives in Wisconsin. Or maybe you meet Rochelle.
I just met the 2 guys.
Okay. So Nate's wife, Rochelle, was also on our team. And then the 4th guy, Scott Forrester, he lives in, I believe, South or North Carolina, over on the East Coast. So we all came together to this. And we've been like talking and planning and training. Got little like running groups. And we're checking mileage all year long. And then 2 weeks ago, I hurt my leg.
I remember.
So you were there in Las Vegas. So I called the guys 2 weeks ago, and this no one listened to this podcast to hear my stories. But the short story is, I hurt my leg, I couldn't run, so I called the guys. I'm like, hey guys, we have this team, and I'm like, either we need to disband the team so you guys can run individual, or we need to find someone to take my place. And Nate's wife's like, I can run, like. And so, because it was a relay team, she didn't have to run the whole time.
Just the first and last lap.
Yeah, that's what the rules are. And she actually did 1 lap also in the middle with all the obstacles. So she didn't have a wetsuit, so she couldn't really go overnight.
Yeah.
But yeah, so one of my buddy's wives ran 15 more miles than I did.
For some reason, I thought they said your wife, and I was like, seriously? Like, I didn't even think she ran when I like talked to you last. She was like, oh, she doesn't do this stuff. Anyways, sorry.
Yeah, no, she could have. Well, with my leg the way it is, she probably could have done. 15
well, it's
more
good
miles.
that you made the smart decision. Some people,
I thought about it. I was like, I could do a lap. I could do a lap or two, just so I said I did this year.
But is it worth it? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
No,
but enough about me.
What's going on?
Tell me about Team USA. You guys had a strong start.
Team USA, because we did have Austin Azar from Canada.
The Canadian reference.
Also, Goat Tough North America and Team NATO.
Team NATO.
Also USA 8.
USA. Okay, so if you look at the standing, if you go online right now and look at the official standings, there's two U.S. teams on top.
Yes.
The U.S. 7, which is Chad Trammell's team.
Yep.
And then U.S. 8, which is your team.
Yep.
Tell me how the race went. You guys started out strong. I saw you coming in fast, literally 0 pit times, at least at the beginning.
Right.
You would just swap out the Was it a wristband that had the
Yeah,
timing chip?
we all had timing chips individually, but we had a team wristband that we'd have to swap that stay out on course. So kind of our plan was we all four went out the first lap, and then we would switch off every single lap, so we had 0 pit time. That was pretty much the strategy. We held to it the whole time, which kind of added a new dynamic to the whole race because you'd get like an hour off and then have to go back out there hard for an hour type thing. So
I believe Team Germany actually started in front. They were. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, they were blazing at the beginning. They came out really, really strong. I think even the first lap, they had like a 5-minute lead on us. And they probably held that for the first half of the race or so.
And then were you guys in second or third at that point?
We were in third. And then we passed the Germans sometime in the middle of the night. I just remember when Miguel and Mark Jones, they passed him. And then we kind of were with them for one lap and then took over, and we ended up beating them by 2 laps, I think, 10 miles. So by the end, we were still going strong, but the other team, USA, was going strong as well. So
were you ever able to have the lead over the other team, USA?
We didn't have the lead. Probably the closest we got towards the end with about, I would say, 6 hours to go. We were within 20 minutes or so. So there was like a kind of like inkling of hope. We were starting to gain on them a little bit because there was a point where they were about an hour ahead of us, and we shaved it down to 20 minutes, but then we were kind of out of gas at that point, and they just kept pushing. So, yeah.
What was it like with the 2 men in, 2 out, 2 in, 2 out? Like you were in the pit, not roughly half the 24 hours.
The time. It was weird. Austin, I ran with Austin most of the time, and we were kind of talking about it, and we're used to just running the 24 hours. It's a whole different scenario to like go out there, run hard for a lap, and then you're trying to stay warm in the pits, but like trying to stay off your feet. You're trying to mobilize, get some nutrition, because you don't want to go out with a lot of gear on like you would in a normal race. So it was just a whole new dynamic. It didn't really feel like a normal Worlds for me. This was my 4th Worlds toughest, and it was just like a completely new experience, which was kind of cool. But you don't get that same 24-hour feel.
Is it something you think you do again next year, or?
I don't know. I really like going out for the 24 hours. It just feels like a different event, but kind of wait to see what categories they bring out next year, if they decide to keep this or if they're just going to have the individual or 2-person teams. That was the other thing. Austin and I were planning on doing a 2-person team before, so we would have been out there for the full 24 hours. And I think that's more appealing to me than the relay, to be honest. And I think we all have the same sentiments because we all wanted to race for 24 hours.
Sure. And we talked about it a few weeks ago. You actually teamed up with another 2-man team that had the same deal.
Yeah, Miguel Medina and Mark Jones, yeah.
So was it kind of cool being in the pit at all? Like, I know your mom and dad were out there with you.
Yeah.
Like, did that kind of take the sting out of not being out there the full 24?
It was actually kind of cool to be in the pits when I was more coherent and like for the beginning of the race when you're a little more fresh and don't really need to do too much between the laps. You don't need to put on, you're not cold, so you're not putting on all this extra gear. It was cool to just like see people come in, kind of hang out with people who were either taking a break or other crew members. It was cool to see the other side of the race, and it kind of made me realize that if there's ever a year I don't want to run, like you have to be there. Just be there and at least crewing or doing something because the environment is so awesome. It's really just like the festival area. It's like a social time pretty much for a lot of us, but it was really cool. I did enjoy seeing that, definitely.
So because you were able to rest for a lap or so,
about an hour,
and then you go back out. Mm-hmm. What was that lap like when you were going? You knew you'd have a break as soon as you finished that lap.
Yeah.
Were you going a lot faster than last year, or somewhat faster?
Oh yeah, we were definitely going, especially at the beginning, a lot faster. Like you'd end the lap and you'd be pretty tired. Most of the time when you're running a 24-hour race, you never really want to get your heart rate too elevated. You never want to feel like you're out of breath, but we knew that in this relay format, we'd have to, we'd be running the hills for most of the race, which we held to until our last couple laps, just because we knew we had to push hard because we'd get a rest in an hour. So it was definitely more like a vibe of a toughest where you're going harder for a shorter amount of time. But it was still a lot of fun.
So your team got 120 miles. The other first place team, they got 120 miles also, just a little faster than you. Did you guys, was there ever a thought in the back of your minds like, man, if we do this fast enough, we can be the first people to get that 125-mile bib?
Well, the thing is, they would only give that to you if you, as an individual, ran it. So there was never a chance for that. Because, like, for me, like, I think they would only credit me for 65 miles, 13 laps. it only goes off individual. So, yeah.
That was
Nope.
a dumb
Not-
question.
Yeah, no.
That's okay. You can say dumb question if it's dumb.
No.
We just finished the brunch. You were on the podium because top 3 for the team relay category.
Yep.
But they also had a special moment where they honored everyone who had the orange jacket.
Yes.
What did you think about that?
That was really cool. It's kind of surreal still. You're in awesome company, and it's no one new got the 100 miles this year. Robert Killian and Ryan Atkins were the only two, so there was no one new. I think that they were kind of thinking someone might, break into the 100, a new person. So we probably could have, added another person, but it was cool for them to at least mention us. They made sure we wore our orange jackets today, which is always, kind of cool to wear this ugly jacket at least once a year. So, it's funny because I don't know if people realize that this was from last year because they would come up to me say, good job. And I'm like, okay, well, this didn't happen this year, but it's still cool.
It's pretty cool because for the rest of your life, you remember this exclusive club of people who have run 100 miles and won an orange jacket. Yes, it's ugly, but it means a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the cool thing. And it does get you compliments out on the strip, by the way. The Las Vegas
Really?
strip. Yeah,
Tell me about that.
No, it did last year. I was like, I can't believe I'm wearing this. Super ugly. But, let's just say some of the waitresses, the bartenders, I got compliments.
I believe it's called peacocking.
Yes, I believe that's what the term is. And I was just like, wow, this is the ugliest thing I've ever worn, but okay.
So you wear it to the brunch, you wear it to the strip afterwards. When else do you wear your orange jacket?
That's pretty much it. It sits up in my room where I could see it all the time. But, yeah, I don't think anyone wants to see this out ever.
Do you have it where you can see it? Does it kind of motivate you during the year?
Yeah, I actually have it hanging on the back of my door. It's a good reminder of kind of what I've accomplished, but just to kind of know that there's still more work to be done always. So, yeah.
And you're one of only 7 men to earn it.
Yep. So it kind of reminds me of my friends who've also gotten it, Austin, Trevor, Ryan, Chad, Killian, and Albin. So, that's great company to be in. But it also reminds me this is probably my biggest accomplishment in OCR, whereas some of the other guys have won a lot of other races. So it just reminds me that just keep working. So I kind of came from, I would say, a lower level of fitness 3 years ago, and just to kind of, if you work hard at something, you can get it. A lot of sacrifice goes into it, but it's cool. It's definitely cool.
What's the next big thing for Chris Mendoza?
I have no. Actually, I do know. It's just rest. Lots of rest for the next 2 months. I'll be doing some stuff, but I don't really have anything planned. So I think toughest LA is in March. So I live in LA, so it's only an hour and a half away from me. So it'll be probably do that. Yeah,
That's exciting. We'll see you next year, World's Toughest.
Yeah, Atlanta.
What do you think about that?
I'm a little sad that it's out of driving distance. But I think it's going to be a nice change. It'll be fun. I didn't get to run the Atlanta course this year, so it's going to be a whole new experience for me.
It's a much flatter course than Vegas.
I heard it's flatter and muddier.
Does that play into your strengths, or is that a challenge?
I like hills. I actually have run a lot more hills in the last few years, but intentionally practicing that. So, I don't know. We'll see. Be a new experience. It'll be fun.
So what did you think of this year, this weekend, the course, the community, the after-race brunch? How compared to last year or compared to previous years? What do you think?
Yeah, it's hard for me to really say if the course was harder. From what I've heard, everyone said it was harder. There were a lot more grip strength obstacles, but we didn't have to run as many laps necessarily. We were just running them harder. So, like I said, it was a completely new race for me, different style race. So, if I were to have tried to run for the 100 miles or whatever, I don't know I don't know what my mileage comparison would be. So it's hard to kind of distinguish. But I feel like they did have a lot more grip strength obstacles, a lot longer penalties than they had in previous years. So it really forced you to be good at those obstacles unless you could run up to 7.5 miles per lap instead of the 5. So you could theoretically pretty much get a 50-mile bib, run the 10 laps, and run over 70 miles, which is crazy to think about. So for a piece of advice for anyone, just get better at the obstacles. I know it's something I need to still work on. I was failing at about an obstacle lap, and it was just killing me. So,
what was your toughest obstacle this year?
Funky Monkey, which is surprising because I usually am fine on it, but it was right after the water, and just it gets cold, it gets slippery, and and then that was a pretty long penalty. So, yeah. This is Mark Jones right here, teammate Mark Jones.
Hey, Mark Jones, you want to say hi?
Hello, Mark Jones. Hi. How's it going? Who
Good.
are you? I'm sorry.
No worries.
Oh, you're
Chris.
Will?
Yeah.
Hey, very nice to meet
Good
you.
to meet you, man.
Yeah, sorry about the other night.
No worries. No, it's good to talk to you.
Tired.
Yeah, no apologies necessary.
He's an old man. That's why he's our captain.
I'm old. Yeah. All right. Bye. You gotta go.
Thanks, Mark. Austin, I'll call you. All right. We can talk later. Sure. Cool. Thanks a lot. You have some fast friends.
Yeah, they're super fast. They're awesome.
Chris, do you have any last thoughts on World's Toughest 2017?
No, it was just a great weekend. I just love being here with the community. I'm excited to go to the pub crawl tonight, which is like the highlight. So a lot of times when people are racing, they're just like, just give me to the pub crawl. Just give me the first to the brunch and then to the pub crawl. And then whatever happens after that. So no, it was a great weekend. I just love seeing everyone from the community. Just love seeing people go out there and like really push themselves, and just seeing a lot of people proudly wear their bibs that they earned is really cool, because a lot of people have like that doubt that creeps in, in the middle of the night, and they push through and are able to get it. And like I said, it's, everyone's personal best is different, but it's just cool to see everyone kind of reach their own goals. So I love it. It inspires me just as, much as anyone else. So I love it. It's a great race, great event, and excited to go to Atlanta next year.
Chris Mendoza, thanks much.
Thank you, Will.
So good.
Nice.
I should have said Christopher Mendoza.
And that's the first time you said Chris. Yes.
Here, Chris, you can take a picture just because this is like a really important thing.
Mom wants a picture, Christopher.
Christopher Mendoza.
I'm sitting down with Mr. and Mrs. Mendoza. How are you guys?
We're doing great.
Excellent.
We're very excited.
How proud are you of Christopher?
We are very proud. He's done this crazy mutter thing, and it's just beyond anything we thought he would ever do.
Yeah, he's just from the first time he did it, he kept telling us about it, like, you're doing what? And really didn't understand it, and then started watching on TV. Of course, came to his first World Toughest Mutter with absolutely nothing, watching him freeze at 50 miles, and still trying to understand it, that he just keeps doing it, and he genuinely loves this. So it's fun for us to be a part of it, spending time with our son.
You guys were his pit crew this year.
Yes.
Is this the first year you pitted for him?
No, this is our third World's Toughest. It was really hard the year we didn't do it. It was more nerve-wracking at home, because anytime he races, no matter where he's at, we're on the computers trying to figure out how he's doing, what's he feeling like. So, no, this is our third, so it was a lot of fun.
How are you able to get him in and get him out? What are some secrets of being a good pit crew?
Well, last year, because he was racing by himself, it was just a system. We'd ask him what he wanted, and we'd get everything ready, and then we'd go out and try to watch him a little bit, and then we'd usually see him again on course if he changed anything, come back, have everything there sitting at the chair, and sometimes it was 30 seconds. It was, switching out his bottles. At the end, he was into hot chocolate, M&Ms, blocks, and then some of his hydration water. But it was just very, very quick. We had to be very, very organized. This year was a whole different game.
Yes, so we had the relay team, complicated with 4 people. We had some great people on the other, there's 5 of us together. And it was just trying to keep their clothes straight, trying to keep them hydrated and have enough nutrition, and then not being able to see him as much as we're used to, just because we always had people in the pits. We always had to take care of some of the crew members. So very exciting. It was great to have a lot of people there. It was great to see the dynamics. It was still a lot of fun.
How does it feel as parents? Your son's out there and he's suffering and he's maybe miserable and his muscles hurt. How do you feel like as a mom knowing that's going on?
Okay, so at his second last lap, he had gone out, and I know he hates the cliff. He hates jumping. And so the sun was out. We thought he was going to make this round a little bit quicker. And so Danny actually went back to get a few things, and I'm sitting there at the cliff, and he's not coming. And I was just getting more nervous, like, oh my gosh, did he get hurt? Did Austin get hurt? And I was anticipating like his fear of the cliff. And as I was watching all these other people, not wanting to jump, my heart was just pounding. And then my phone rang, and it was his dad, and I was so freaked out because I thought that he was going to tell me that he had gotten hurt or Austin had gotten hurt because they were the two running at the time. And then he just said, "Are they there yet?" And I was like, "No." And I was so grateful. But then I knew that there was something going on because it was taking so long. So I was getting a little teary. I was getting a little weird. And then finally when I saw him, it was just like, such a relief. Such a relief. And yes, there were tears in my eyes, and I was just getting weird. But, I had faith that everything was going to be okay. But, I'm weak, and I love my son. And so that mommy thing does take over.
So as a dad, we want our sons to be strong, but we want to protect them also. We don't want them to get hurt. How do you feel when you see him out there suffering intentionally?
He's a strong-willed kid from day one. I mean, you look at his history, his choices he's made. I don't worry about him that much because he's done everything right, I think. We're not perfect, but I just know he's going to be okay. He's not a complainer. I can see in his eyes when he's hurting, he's not going to complain about it. He wants to do whatever his challenge is in front of him and get it done. It's not fear for me, it's more proud that I watch him struggle through things. And I mean, you go back to his very first Tough Mudder, World's Toughest Mudder, and he comes out here with very little with his mom and dad. And there was a point where he was shivering so bad that we had to basically put him in sleeping bags, strip him, put him in sleeping bags, and then hug him and to warm him up. And then we put all that gear back on him, and he took off again. That's a strong will. Yeah, to come out here and do 50 miles his very first time. So,
most parents, once their kids are a certain age or certain size, they never have to undress them and protect them and get them warm again.
Yeah.
But
okay. That was funny because actually we were helping undress all 4 of the teammates this year. So I, again on my bib said Mama Mendoza, and he had Papa Mendoza. And I, for that, 24 hours, we had 4 grown sons.
The funny part is they kept saying, well, this, and then, the other people who were not used to us would say something. We're like, listen. She's a nurse. I'm an ex-paramedic fire captain. There's nothing we haven't seen that was going to freak us out or smell or deal with it. And they're like, really? So it was fine.
He changed his diapers. Nothing there.
Way too good.
You just talked about being proud of him. How did you feel when you saw him cross the finish line?
Well, it was great. It was great. I mean, to be a podium winner again, but for his first team race, it was just amazing. And I was proud. At that point, I was proud mama of 4 mudders, and that was really cool.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It was a different race for us because it wasn't focused on our one son, but we had 4 sons for the weekend.
And then today at the brunch, you saw the whole community kind of honors Chris as one of the 7 guys to get the 100 miles. How does it feel to see the community rally around your son?
Well, it's pretty amazing because, even like last year when we first started, we were introduced to a bunch of people, but it was Chris's mom or Doza's mom and dad. And at the brunch last year, it was like, all of a sudden we're a little bit of celebrities. And then coming in this year was just even that much more. Oh, you're Doza's mom, you're Chris's mom and dad. And it was pretty cool. It's, it's like living a little dream here in Mudderland.
Yeah, I mean, we're, of course, Facebook with our kids. And so we see these faces and pictures and friends and people that make comments. And then it was great. Like, I met so many people that I've seen them on Facebook, but I got to meet them. And so they were the same way. They were very appreciative of us being here and just hugging and just having a great weekend. So it was fun.
I've enjoyed getting to meet you guys a little bit, too. We met a couple weeks ago in Vegas, and then we've seen each other a few times this weekend. So you're very kind when I kind of riffed on your guys' names, like it's Christopher and Krista Mendoza.
It was perfect. We, totally loved that.
Yeah.
Anything that we can be goofy and silly, Yeah, you're part of our family now too.
Yeah, we're not pretty straight-laced people. We're pretty funny. We're just we go with the flow.
Mr. and Mrs. Mendoza, any last thoughts on World's Toughest 2017?
First of all, my name is Katie, or Mama Doza. You don't have to call me Mrs.
And I'm Daddy Doza, Danny.
But it just was a great. This is awesome. I love the community. I love the Mutter community. I love the podcasts and all the posts and things that we see. And I definitely feel even more part of this family this year.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I love all the podcasts. Anytime there's an interview, we're now clicking on them. Your podcasts and Obstacle Course Media, all the different Facebooks. I mean, we're a part of all that, so we're reading about everybody that he's racing against, and it's neat to see your son a part of that. So.
Special thanks to Sue Harvey Brown, Chris Mendoza, Katie Mendoza, and Danny Mendoza. Special cameos by Mark Jones and Austin Azar. Well done, everyone. Sue talked about the new shoes for 2018. They are already out and available for purchase at Merrell.com. There are no I's in Merrell. I already bought a pair of the All Out Crush 2.0s. They've got more padding in them than last year's model. I have not run in them yet, though. And the boa lacing thing is pretty cool. It's a twist to tighten, pull up to loosen kind of thing. I want to get some mud in it and see how it performs. People, if you want more Tough Mudder product, we need to buy Tough Mudder product. Buy a can of Killcliff. Pick up Will Dean's book. You can buy a 6-pack of Guinness Blonde Lager, and if you don't like it, mail it to Carlo and Josh Cox. They'll drink it for you. Here's what you can do. At your first Tough Mudder this year, before you check your bag, go to the Merrell tent and try on a pair of the new All Out Crush 2.0s. Then you'll look sexy at the start line in your new kicks. That's it for kickoff week. What did you think? I loved it. Leave us a review on iTunes and let me know. I'll talk to you in a week. Go spend time with someone you love.